Boom. And then I'll start the stream. Boom. Make sure it goes. So you're up in New York, right?
I'm in Maine.
Hmm.
Same time zone, but I'm up in the
Oh,
middle.
I was off an hour. I don't know what I was thinking. I had to go re-edit everything. Okay, here we go. Let's see.
Yeah.
Seth Leaf is in the house. Let's see. We've already got the record. Oop. Boom. Let me get this figured out. Yeah. Okay. If you come in, give us a heart. Let us know you're here. We got brother Seth in the house. It's been a long time since he's been in the house. Just put his little picture up here. Boom. All right. So yeah, it's been a long time. It's probably been close to a year, if not a year, since we've actually sat down. A lot's been going on, as we all know. I don't even know where to start, other than what's been happening with you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, everything that's happened for all of us, for everybody in the past few years, it couldn't be a more perfect catalyst to get us, those who know something way greater is happening to us, through us, and in the world around, to love that, to keep tuning ourselves to it. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been doing live guided free coherence meditations every week, we want to go for the 100th monkey effect. Let's get over the tipping point of this consciousness, the super consciousness we all are. So
right on. So what do you call that? Live
coherence meditation. Yeah, they're
live coherence meditation. And where are you doing this? On YouTube?
Yep, it's on. I stream across YouTube, Facebook. There's a bunch of actually different platforms, and there's a Zoom link for it too for people who want to be right in the Zoom.
That's cool. There's a lot of people that, Sandra Walter's been doing that for, I think, about 8 years. She has that those 3 meditations every Sunday. It's all done in the etherics, and there's a lot of people that are starting to, well, they have been, I guess, more openly sharing kind of the group gathering, be it a meditation, activation. But, to your point, the 100th monkey, I mean, people have talked about that for years and years. And, I really feel like the only thing holding us back from that at this point is our own belief. Because, man, we've got so much overwhelming evidence on every front, be it the disclosure, be it the conspiracy, be it the truthers, be it the starseeds, light workers, everyday people. There's just so much going on. I mean, I reunited with my mother after 6 years to the day on May the 30th. And she's 83. And in September, she had quadruple bypass. As a result of, if you're going to share this out, I won't mention it, but as a result of a medical procedure, it appears. So number one of many stories that I've heard where the physical body has, met and overcome anything thrown at it. And I think we can all say that about ourselves with the fluoride, GMOs, et cetera, et cetera. But also the other thing was, aside from the time that we had apart, there really was no mention of any stories. It was amazing. And I felt like it was a microcosm of what we're all going through. And to your point about the 100th monkey, is that although she doesn't swim in these waters, so to speak, like everyone has their own spirituality and relationship with the universe, she said, Todd, something is going on. Something is happening in this world, something that prolific, biblical, along those lines. So, and I've heard a lot of people on the show talk about it as well, how people that even questioned them over the years, like I'm sure happened to you and to me, are coming to him and asking questions. And, one of the quotes would be, I didn't even know they were awake. So yeah, there's definitely something in the air.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, people are in these beings, these bodies. It's really easy to get addicted to fear and stress
Yeah.
even well-intentioned and well-meaning people, they can be totally addicted to what we think is happening around us, because there's billions of different perspectives, many ways of looking at it. But, as we've grown up, as we've been exposed to the system, as children, we put up blocks to certain things. The world has taught us to do that. And a lot of people become addicted to being this little box that they themselves made. So
Yeah.
it's an addiction, and it's one that we want to kick, or that
Yeah.
we are. It's actually really more of a habit.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. I like that word habit. I think it's more realistic. It's less of a programming connotation to it. It's just more of an after effect. I mean, you could say, like with what you're saying, that the collective projection of the bullshit, we can say anything on the platform, by the way.
Right.
But I'll try to be respectful. So if you share it out, we don't want to get it banned.
Oh, no.
But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. But
You said you liked habit, the word
well,
habit.
oh yeah, I like that. I like to use that word because the words are becoming so much more meaningful now. They're taking on different connotations. They're getting new definitions. And I think just the word addiction is just kind of a harsh word for valiant souls that came in to incarnate in the human experience throughout this galaxy, and to culminate that on the earth right now, right here. And so I think, yeah, we need to go easy on ourselves and go easy on each other. And I really like, the energy that you're bringing, because I know we've done a few shows together, and I'm sure you've seen me evolve, and I see you evolve. I see others that I have frequent shows with evolve, and it's not condescending. It's all of us. And so it's really good to see how we can kind of, come out of the waters of disclosure and the revelations that come, not so much the superficial, the 9/11s and the JFKs and the secret space and this that, but to actually look at the energetics of it and our responsibility and culpability in achieving unity in the physical being in this realm. Because there's been a lot of shit out there, and there still is.
Yeah. Then the habit of just getting people get totally thrown off the rails if they focus on everything around. It's like the only thing that I know that's ever made sense. And even I went to prison for 3 years, and the external environment was so brutal that I had no choice but to just calm myself down and get into coherence. The heart and mind start working together, then the other organs. And then it got to a point where the external world didn't have any effect on that inner state that I had worked to create. And now it seems like this is what's happening to everybody.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, it's like this. God, you think of all the conversations over the years on programs like this, and just individual conversations that we have, and all the cliches. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because there's certainly truth to a lot of them. Go within, go with the flow. Get away from the distraction, the habits. And really plug in. And so there, you see a lot of, from all of us at some level or another, things get revealed, like through projection, and just through, the memory coming up and the body feeling it. And now this year, which seems so different, I mean, just irrefutably different than any year previous. I mean, literally walking in a new realm. But the way we're able to see these things in reverence as our teachers, and let them go, in the sense that their role now changes from one of a trauma-based limitation to a, the gold of the shadow that brings us our unlimitedness. I mean, this is fucking amazing.
Yes.
Really.
Yes. That's what you took the word right out of my mouth.
Which one, fucking or amazing?
Together is 2 words. Fucking amazing. But that's just it, right? Like, the world has come to a place where it's really trying to affect us from the outside in. And because most don't necessarily know how powerful they are, or they
Yeah,
don't remember, they just keep processing all this stuff. And that turns into the projection, like you were
true.
saying before.
Yeah,
So now more than ever, we're being offered an opportunity to become conscious of the consciousness that's causing the heart to beat,
yeah,
cause thoughts to arrive in the mind. I mean, inside everybody, no matter what miracle of life is happening. But again, everybody's caught up. And
yeah,
it's easy. I was caught up. You know, before I went
yeah,
to jail,
yeah,
this is 20, well, 15 years ago. It was a long time ago, but there, everyone's saying the world is going to end, the economy is going to collapse. And they're saying it back then, you know, but now it feels like, and I know you probably feel similarly. I wondered if we were ever going to see this in our lifetime. Because for a while it seemed like, you know, everybody's living, everything seems normal, but like at what point is true change going to come? And it seems like it's here. So
yeah, it does. And you brought up a really good point. I feel that, when we take certain positions, like in any subject or topic, especially when it comes to, meaning of life and that alignment that I believe the vast majority, regardless of their, people are good. I
yes,
mean, it's true.
yeah,
And in the mess of it all, that's been tainted, our
yeah,
image of ourself and of course our brothers and sisters. But so I feel like that, as light workers, as star seeds, as whatever you want to call it, as people that are just trying to build unity consciousness, that it is incumbent upon us to check ourselves. And all we got to do is go down the news feed because,
mm,
look at all lives are precious.
yeah,
But this is strictly from an observation standpoint and discussion for all of us try to expand. And look at the submarine episode. Look at the political stances of that you see on this, in these feeds. And yeah, mine's tailored very much. I mean, I remove stuff that I don't want to see if I see it consistently from someone. Not that I unfriend them, but I just want to keep it clean. But even with that, you see, uh, yay Trump, yay Biden, yay this, yay that. There's
yeah,
a submarine, and all that stuff. And I just feel like that, personally, I have to check myself. Am I looking for um, relevance in terms of contrast and in terms of a deeper meaning, or am I getting caught up and am I feeling it in my body? Like, oh, is that pissing me off? Or that's he's right, or and it's a thin line,
yeah.
but we got narrow feet. Yeah,
Walk between, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, you know, I always like to do a little self-check, you know. I look out at the world and no matter how evil or dualistic or no matter what is happening, I say to myself, for all I know, I could be the only one observing all this.
yeah,
Meaning, like, what would happen if I took responsibility for how I viewed
yeah,
all the duality, all the polarities, all the extremes? What if I was just there to observe it and then a whole new world changes?
yeah,
Because it seems like that's what most are doing. I mean, the things you mentioned, divide and conquer, I mean, it's so clear, right?
yeah,
But at the same time, most aren't clear enough to see it as that. However, they have the opportunity to do that
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. And it seems to be coming back to us. I mean, we've all had these connections of our other aspects and universal infinite intelligence. And, we all have our own ways that, that we become more and more conscious of. And that, what you're talking about is what I feel is happening to us. We are getting to that point where, hey, maybe it is just me. And if it is me, why am I seeing what I'm seeing? And it is that deeper dive into, well, there's more to the story. For instance, I've heard quite a few people, and even with myself in the last couple of weeks, a couple of months, there's been a lot of galactic stuff coming in. There's been, there was a what was it, a Pleiadian gateway of a couple of weeks into second half of May, but there's been, a lot of memories coming in. I've heard people talking about memories going back to the originations of the galactic war, and how really we have the same elements from here to there and there to here, in terms of the players, in terms of the forces of opposition and antagonism. But the reality is, it doesn't matter what point in the timeline that we get a code or a message or a memory from. But now more than ever, to your point, what is being present? Being present, being the God, being that goddess in the body that has the universal will tapped into them. And how do we do this? And I believe that's the code that we're writing for the universe. It's like, okay, you guys got to figure it out because you're the ones down there. But it's humbling, and it's at times a bit frightening to me, because of the depth of the personal integrity that we are faced with, and ultimately we meet.
Yeah.
It brings a lot of things in.
Oh my God. And even if like I'm not the only one perceiving, or you're not the only one perceiving, if this is all of us doing it, right? We all are the collective. We are all connected to the collective. However, on an individual level, we have the ability to affect the collective with our own unique way. And that's where that individual thing comes in, because the way I'm going to express my love of consciousness of life might be a little bit different to you. And that's the beauty of it, because the collective aspect is working on its own thing. It's just like, it's in harmony with itself. And so we have the ability to be in harmony with that. And then the growth, the things we experience, the arts, the music, all the things that, you could say it comes from a greater or a deeper well.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's really, truly.
Yeah, because it seems too that everything's coming down to the human. like if you look at it from a multidimensional perspective, it's like the human's the most mundane part. We're always here, man. We want to get out of here, but it's like we designed it to where there is no other choice. And you bring up creativity and artistry, and I'm watching people start to expand, and that's what we're trying to do, as a whole here, for people to come in and create their own shows and express themselves in a way that they don't have to be embarrassed. They don't have to be afraid. And, I've experienced it in my life since last summer. I mean, I've always kind of dabbled here and there, but it was more of a, talk show and, other things. And the creativity was, or at least the artistic part of it, kind of like a sideline when I have time. But man, I tell you what, sitting around and making spontaneous music, freestyling, harmonizing, just exploring lyrically, traveling in kind of an improv kind of way, and mixing it all together with playmates has been a real a foundational anchoring kind of action that the human has taken, regardless of the headlines, regardless of anything else. But in that moment, you go there, and that's something I believe that's going to become bigger and bigger. And I think the groups that come together, like you're talking about, where people come in for whatever it looks like on the surface, but what in reality is a merging. It's a merging. It's an energetic merging, and so much comes from that. To include code and downloads or transmissions, activations, but also in the creative process in a way that we haven't really put out there, or at least not put out there on the same level as a lot of the things we've seen over the last 10 years in these circles, which has been exposing, introducing people to light language and all these different things that come through. But just to conclude that, this has been, and we know it's nothing personal, but it's very personal to us, right? In
Yeah.
our own right. But we also know that unity consciousness is unity consciousness. And that means everybody's a co-creator and a collaborator. And I feel like this is really starting to take root. People saying, okay, well, you know, I can't go save the world here, do this or that, but I can come together with brothers and sisters and we can do something.
You know what? Yeah, beautiful, beyond beautiful. I try to like simplify it a little bit and, you know, just kind of self-centered, kind of logical exploration of the human species, you could say. And what I keep coming back to is all the quote unquote people that are doing quote unquote terrible things to the world. They have a heart, they have a brain, they have a pineal gland, they have a pituitary gland. They have the very hardware that we all are coming together and choosing to activate from the inside out. You know, yeah, my people might have, okay, they're reptilian or there's that, like, okay, but if anybody's in these bodies, you can get your consciousness in tune with your heart, with your brain, with your entire being. And the more that we work on that, the more consciousness grows, it expands. And then you get to a point where your field is just so big that all the galaxy energies, you literally experience yourself as part of that, getting support by that. And think about how much bigger all of that is than what most people are stuck and afraid about and talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you know, it intrigues me, and that, you know, over the years you hear a lot of we're going back to Atlantis, we're going back to Lemuria, we're going back to this and that, as if things were perfect when we were there. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not
Yeah,
to take anything away from there. I've got beautiful memories of powerful
yeah,
memories, in as many people do, even more so as the days go by. But we're here with all of that. We hold all of that, to your point. You know, we hold the Anunnaki, we hold the Pleiadians, we hold the rifts, we hold the murders, the rapes, we hold the good stuff, the bad stuff.
yeah.
And now we stand not on the precipice, but actually swimming in the waters of that, you know, that proposition you have with the universe, which always says there's 10% you're never going to know. So we're swimming in these waters as the drop in the ocean, dog paddling. We're breathing, to your point. We're life. We're full of life. And you know, when it gets right down to it, going back to what you opened with, is how do we know or not that it's our own personal, you know, alignment of let's say thoughts, words, and actions of our multidimensionality in the physical form, as mundane as that might seem. And you know what I mean? And unflashy as that might seem compared to the multidimensionality. But you know, how do we know or not know that the very fact that we put the effort in and swim like hell until we figure this shit out isn't going to make the difference, you know?
You know, again, like we all have dormant perceptual abilities that really they can be turned on with a, you know, minimal effort. Just need to focus, you know, like the pituitary gland, the pineal gland. When we're meditating, we focus on specific glands. And when you focus on feeling that gland in your body and you can feel your pulse, you know, right in there, boom, 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 right in the gland, those glands open up, they release innate, inherent intelligence that combined with our perception of it, it's like the glue, right? It's like our perception, the part of the body we're focused on, and then the divine energy that's allowing all this to even be. And no matter how deep somebody can go into it, it always gets to this point where everything's energy. It's all there's ever been,
Right.
and it's all there ever will be. And what's beautiful is that, as we've been saying, we get to create. I'm getting duck pimples all around. We get to create a reality, you know, like it's just it couldn't be any more amazing. But look at all, okay, people get stuck on the stuff like, okay, how can there be a divine if there's just, rampant evil in the world? And again, that comes back to, what if I'm the one that's seeing it that way? How do I know that maybe it's my responsibility to come in and witness all that from a place of coherence, from a place of being connected to the spark of life that everybody and everything is? How do we know, right, that we're not the ones that are here to bring balance back into us, which then it back into this world? Like, how do we know, So it's like, okay, well, we cannot take responsibility for it, but all of us, we want this. We're here. We want to make change. We want to create that which has never been created before, you could say. The abilities that everybody has with these bodies are just, you get to a point where you're so in love, no matter what's going on, because you know that your love is in harmony with the love, like not human love, not any of the things that we believe. Yeah, that's all part of it. But a love of this spark of light, which is creativity. It is the creative impulse, And you mentioned it before, like when brothers and sisters get together and, oh my God, we're like soul reflective mirrors. We have the ability to show each other everything that the other needs to help usher in that unity consciousness.
Geez, hallelujah. And so much of what, so much more of what we exchange with each other is not even spoken.
Yeah,
It's literally,
exactly.
the sound vibration, which I know you're very much into many things, but that's one of them. Yeah, I mean, that like that instant healing thing. I mean, it's like, I don't know, we start mixing intentions with harmony and vibration and sound and music and whatever poetic, you know words and whatever it lights. I mean, there's a lot to that. And for me, now that we've got this far, is actually having these discussions offer, or the gatherings like you're talking about that you do, actually, um you know I just had a lapse because I lost something.
No, it's, yeah, of course, no,
uh
whatever.
no, I lost some. I had a actually lost I left my feel naked without it. Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying.
And it could be for the best, right? But we bring it back.
Yeah,
Just us talking, we're creating.
yeah, that's what I was talking about. The fact that, or not the fact that we get more now from each other than we can get from anything, because we're better mirrors for each other. We can go face to face, look each other in the eye, the mirror of the soul, and we're more balanced, we're more harmonic. Yeah, we still have things to work out with some mirrors here and there. We all do, but we have much more of a common ground now. And with that, with what really is transparency, it's beyond vulnerability. That's part of getting there, but being able to dive into these subjects, over the years, the trauma stuff, the empathic journey and all that, but even more so now, which I think I've seen, in this community over the years, and it's really coming out now, especially with a lot of women 40 and over that have been plugged in for a long time in the background, um, stepping up and being transparent about their weird life, about their visions. About, it's not so much about, oh yeah, my family disowned me too, and no one believed me when I was a kid. No, it's like, you know what, we're on the other side of this thing. So that's what I'm hearing, and I'm gathering some people to create their own content, and the vast majority of those are women, and many of them have never done anything, and they want to come out and they want to tell their story and show the world who they are. And I feel like that, that is, it's unstoppable.
And thank goodness, right? Talk about we've been in a patriarchy for so long, right? Women didn't really mess up this planet. We did. You know, and I'm saying that as a generalization.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, men, for the most part, are the founders of all these corporations and all these big businesses and all this stuff. Women are way higher energy
Right.
than that, right? Like these guys are so, it's like, who knows how many lifetimes they've been just stuck in those pain, trauma, victim cycles that then turn to overpowering and tired, you know, all the different virtues, I guess, the lower virtues that keep us kind of stuck. It's when balance comes, we need a feminine force to get, and we need a lot of it to get to that point where it starts to balance out more. And it's funny, I don't watch TV, I don't pay attention to any of that. And I've had people give me a hard time because I'm referring to gender, you know, male or female. And it's like,
Right.
oh my God, like I am the least political person I've ever known. But it's not so much male and female. It's feminine and masculine. And when those two come together, it's not any of that.
Yeah.
It is a unified state of energy that also is without gender, but it gives birth to all genders, to everything. It comes from that.
Yeah. Very well put. Very well put. I mean, you're right. I mean, and again, that's another divide and conquer, isn't it? I mean, you can obviously see the telegraphing suggestions
Yeah.
that you know, and we're used to it now. And
Yeah.
and then going back to like the perspective of, well, as you were talking about, like good and evil, but seeing things like in your example of gender as positive and negative, and of course not in good or bad, but just in simply like electric, magnetic, you know, geometry, whatever you want to call it. It's you know, if you look at, you know, for instance, people that play those roles that you're talking about, from a soul level, what's their job? What's our job? What do we try to do? Wake people up? What does a shaman do? A heyoka, push people, go one direct or present one thing so that they'll come back, you know, so they'll question it, so that they'll say no. See, I look at some of these things, like even what was breaking or supposedly breaking in Russia and Ukraine yesterday, you know, and you see these narratives, and you see the Alex Jones, and you see this and you see that, and then I just go, you know what, this is funny as hell, because it's really just people going, you know what, fuck no,
Right.
no, I'm not participating. You know, I'm not afraid to be in a you know, a blackout when the grid's blacked out. I'm not afraid to you know, have to fast, you know, for weeks, or I'm not afraid to die. But one thing is,
Yeah.
if I live 12 more days or 1200 more days, I'm going to live these days in my sovereignty, you know, in my universality, in my godliness, and that's apparently opening up doors for all of us as we say no further and further and further, because the questions or the nudges or the fuckery, whatever you want to call it, isn't going to stop until we say, I am not participating. I live in a multi-universe. I happen to be very conscious in my body with my brothers and sisters here. We know it's important. We don't have it all figured out, but we're not playing that fucking game anymore, you know?
Yeah. I mean, look at, I don't watch any of it. I actually
That's a
have
good
people
thing.
who get upset because I don't know about stuff, but it's like what I'm focusing on and what many I know are able to focus on is so much bigger.
Yeah.
And so much smaller too than all of the things that are happening here, right? You talk about a box, like the world has gotten stuck in a box.
Yeah.
Okay, time to open up the box and grow and evolve.
Yeah.
Because we don't need anybody to keep us down. We don't need, but they don't. That's the thing. Like, yeah, we perceive all these things as, you know, us and them, which is more duality consciousness. What if all the terrible things that we see happening, our life itself, just rattling the cages, doing everything it can to get our attention, right? And when we pay attention, that attention pays us because we are everything. We are infinity. We are all of it and none of it at the same time, you know? And
Mm,
so when we can live like that in these bodies, that's when others, you don't have to say a word, right? You're in a state of coherence. All your organs are all in tune to the pulse of your heart. And you're just feeling that little smile, that bit of joy. And you are, with every beat of your heart, electromagnetic frequencies are sent out into eternity. And then they come back. I mean, I would much rather watch that than,
true.
7 o'clock news.
You're right, Seth. You're absolutely right. I've watched my relationship change, like everything. We've got this
Yeah,
greater awareness, especially this year, the last 3 or 4 months. I mean, it's just been insane.
yeah,
Um, and it's again, it's a learning experience. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? I mean, like March 1st, get off of social media, go do this, do that. I mean, that's one thing I think we all have in common is regardless of whatever, we're all here because of this guidance we've been listening to that's really individualized to us. But there's these commonalities as we share. And you're stepping in this world and it's just like man, nothing's like it used to be. How does this work? How do you do this? And I do feel that and if I don't feel, I know that um the traditional means of information gathering, we can call it the mainstream media, we can call it a big tech, you can call it YouTube, Facebook, you can call it whatever you want to, it's going away. It's not
yeah,
sticking. It's not going to stick. There's already people that it's not sticking with. And I'm not saying that you can't go on it or this or that. I'm just saying that there's something bigger speaking. And even if we have been a little slow in our opinion, which we may or may not have been. This may be like, I mean, how many times have over the last few years have we kind of known we just accelerated the timeline? Because I remember in 2012, 2013, doing the show like in 2015, people would be talking about, oh, it's going to be 2070, it's going to be 2052,
yeah,
2037. There's a lot of people talking about 2024 now.
yeah,
A lot of people saying, uh, you know, a lot of things that point to a totally different environment where there is this continuing blossoming or burgeoning of that feminine energy in all of us that is bringing that multidimensionality into our physicality, as opposed to the rigidness of a obvious patriarch that both genders energetically, both energetic genders suffered in their role, because where the feminine in us was the victim, the masculine incarnated was the soldier of the patriarch. So we couldn't even question, we got to go to war, and then you go to war, and then what happens? And you just look through history, even in the galactics, the pillaging, the you know raping,
yeah,
genetic cleansing, whatever you want to call it, wiping people out. I mean, this goes to all of our composition, yet in the beautiful description that you give, we have the ability to bring peace and equilibrium to all those things that are contained within us. And again, going back to the human, it's like every moment that we live in our thoughts, words, and actions, even if no one knows about it, even if it's just something that is between me and 2 or 3 people, those steps and those thoughts and those words and integrity uh, have a healing that goes way beyond you and me. It's universal.
it's universal, yeah. Well, from what I've experienced and what I've become aware of, each organ in our body represents a slightly different living geometric field that's pulsing through it and out of it. And when you get really, really in tune with yourself, you start to experience that all the different organs and glands and everything, they're projecting geometries into different dimensions.
Yeah.
And everything already is multidimensional. It is infinite timelines. It is everything. But now more than ever, the ability to perceive all of that is what we're all here to help each other do, because it's always been there. But for whatever reason, we've gone through all this crazy stuff, and now it's coming back to a tipping point or fever pitch where
Yeah.
we have the ability to remember why we came here. And when we
Yeah.
do that, like talk about like you're literally like, I love you, I love everything. It's because it is that creative spark is love, right? All consciousness comes from it, all planets, systems, galaxies, universe, microscopic bacteria, everything comes from all of it. And we do too. We are that. So the more I spend time getting to these states and other people as well, the more all that stuff just reveals itself.
Yeah. How long do your coherent meditations last?
I mean, I try to keep it under a half hour, but
Yeah.
they usually go to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I try to open it up for question and answer, but everybody's so relaxed and they're just in these they're like, oh no, we figured it out.
Do you I mean, when you go through these, I'm sure they're all different, but do you work with the organs and such, the glands and everything?
That's the basis of it all.
Cool.
Like when people start to feel, when we focus on all these different systems of our body, respiratory system, like whatever, we're focusing on it, we are amplifying the power that is already in it because we're the observer, right? We are conscious of these bodies. And when we start focusing on any system or anything, and we start to make the connections that the divine is in us already, it's around us. When we focus on that, it creates a whole new dimension of perceptual awareness. Because anyway, the amplification of all these different systems in our body are happening now more than I've ever experienced in my life. And
Yeah. So you mean, and I agree with you that I think what you're saying is your awareness and sensitivity to the connection that you have with each of these pieces within us is at an all-time high. I hadn't thought about it in the way that you explained it, because I think of, I mean, at the most I would have thought physical body, emotional, mental, etheric, and all the light bodies and so on outward. But man, the body's just been coming on board more and more and more, especially in 2023. And to actually, and I've worked with my body, before, like probably everybody has at, different times, but um, it's speaking very clearly what you eat, what you do, I mean, it's like that's coming on. Get a pain, what is that? Oh, that's that memory. We need to let that go. That's where it was stored, things like that. But to actually go in and look at the human what you would say per se, biological body, and say, okay, today we're going to work with the skeletal system. Today we're going to work with the circulatory system. Today we're going to work with the nervous electrical system, and which I hadn't thought about. At least it didn't seem like I had to actually consider those things, not of a finite existence, but actually just a very physical, dense form of the immortality and infiniteness of me.
yeah,
And then to go there. I mean, even just when you were saying it, I was feeling into it. I could actually see it. It seemed to be like the respiratory system. I could see it like appearing, like the roots
oh
in a
yeah,
tree.
that's
Yeah, that's trippy.
so. I mean, all right, to make this simple, it's like we're born into this world, right? We pretty much go through whatever the world has in store for us. And as we're growing and developing, we create neural networks of thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, actions, all of that, that become predominantly who we are, right? Like
Yeah.
our identity is the sum total of all that stuff. And when you're in that, it's really easy to continue to stay stuck in it. You know, like we're taught, oh, I am with my skin. My name is John Doe. And this is when we realize that, oh, we've been holding ourselves back.
Yeah.
Then by finding the passion, the things we love in life, the creativity, and we just like go full at it, like
Yeah.
really, really do that. It creates all new neural networks, neural architecture. Everything becomes new. And eventually you get to a point where you're focusing on all these different systems of your body, and you literally become conscious that there's an overlay, a holographic overlay of you as the soul you truly are, and how that soul interfaces with these bodies, with these beings. And yeah, like you just said, it is the place where we evolve. It is the place when we can literally have a quantum leap in evolutionary perception to the degree that nothing can hold it back. But what do? We got to laugh, we got to have fun, we got to enjoy this brief moment, because it's in that we find the infinite moments. And then when you feel that, because you've always been connected to it, but you just weren't as aware of it.
Yeah. 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 It's funny. 2, 3, 4 days ago, I don't know. I've never really, well, and I can't say that, proportionate to my life. I never really was hung. I didn't think I was hung up on this is me. Right.
Yeah.
Like, but like you said, if you just use this as an example, over the years, I'm 61 now and I don't feel it, but I mean, you get older and you go, oh, my stomach, or oh, I'm getting flabby, I need to work out more, or let's go walk, or my hair's, not what it was, or whatever the case is. It uh takes away from the human, almost like an unconscious disrespecting. Now, the reason I bring this up is because of what you're saying. I noticed over the last few days that from the perspective of my soul, being embodied and being more of my, my functional self, you could say. Go into the bathroom, comb my hair, whatever the case is, and I'm looking, I'm like, you know what? That's not me. I get that. That's not just me. I get that. But you know what? I'm actually liking this avatar, this hologram. I like it. This is cool. I'm good with it. And it was just kind of a subtle, kind of a revelation coming in, another example or characteristic of the expansions we're having in so many fronts. And speaking of that, and speaking to somebody who I know from having, collaborated with you in the past, your level of connection and communion over the years. And, with everything that you've said and that we've discussed in terms of it coming down now to us as in this, let's say the on point, the Seth, the Todd, that part of our aspects on point, bringing it all with us. Are you finding anything changing in terms of how you're picking up information, how you're understanding things? I mean, is it kind of like you and the universe speaking now versus other aspects coming in to serve as an emissary?
So as I was saying, like with each organ, it produces a different geometry of frequency, of vibrance, of
Okay.
electromagnetism. But they're not separate, even though they're projecting into different dimensions. It's all one dimension, right? You could say, or it's one infinite dimension with countless infinite dimensions in it, right? So the more we get into these states of harmony, then naturally all the organs, all the energy, that the coherent fields from the planet we're on, from the galaxy, like all of that comes online. And when you get to the point where the energetics of your body have been amplified and charged up to the degree that you can perceive a lot more frequency, it's like every single bit of everything you've ever thought you were, all the past lifetimes that you forgot about while you were here, all of that comes right in and it condenses into one unified being that I'm
I
gonna
mean,
cry because it's
I mean, what a great explanation, because I mean, if we look at the self-judgment we've had and the judgment of others based on what? Based on this incarnation. That's it. And I think what you're saying, in fact, I know because I can feel it. And I think it is coming in for people is the having the even just a little bit, having just little glimpses and flashes of what is truly our human soul lineage. You know, just because we're on the earth doesn't mean that's where the human beings start and stopped. I mean, even in this part of the late into the story, 6,000, 12,000, 25,000 years, we have a whole history there. And that in itself is going to, I'm gonna say going to, it will do that, but it's doing it now. That will bring a whole different perspective. And I feel like that regardless of what's going on, regardless of whatever our interpretations are, you know, our narration of it is, there's a universal entity. It's right on schedule. Everything's coming in. And but there's that little piece to me, that little, just as the universe says, we're not going to tell you all of it, we're going to save 10% the unknown. That's the seed of the mother's womb. That's the unknown. That's the void. We have a little piece that we can kind of, you know, spit and polish the ride. You know, we can kind of like hang 10 on the peak of the wave, because we know the wave's going down at some point. It's all a cycle, right? So that's what excites me. What excites me is seeing people step out of the box and try things they've never tried before. Things that not for the sake of doing them, but for doing them for the purpose of actually fulfilling their own inner alignment, sharing their own spirit and soul, you know, through whatever means that is. I mean, that's, to me, that's like, it sounds so simple and basic and like the vast minority, but it really is all the pixels that make up this realm. That 1% is a 1%. They don't call it 1% for no reason.
yeah.
I mean, you know, we're individually, per your description, also we're that as a unit. So coming into our own awareness of ourselves, simultaneously, like everything else that happens, when we have a higher level of self-love or self-respect, we immediately, that parlays into seeing our brothers and sisters in a different light, more compassion, less judgment. But yeah, I mean, as a group, man, we are like universal soldiers, man. This is the big time.
And these bodies are the most extravagant temples there ever could be. Within these bodies and the innate intelligence that's always pulsing through it.
Yeah.
When we allow our consciousness to remember to start connecting to all that, there isn't any more unconscious or subconscious. It all becomes one unified field of human perception and divine emanation from that place. And, you know, like, I love, even when I get stuck and things have like happened, I imagine myself sitting right on the top of a mountain. It's way up there. And yet around me, there's nothing but infinity. Just in the physical universe.
Yeah.
I don't end with my skin. I don't like my issues. Why would I let them hold me back? Because there is nothing but everything, infinity. And right, we forget to tap into that universal nature, and not just the infinity. It's like focusing on the microscopic bacteria that is also us.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we have this opportunity, like cycles, you said, we have the ability to become super conscious of our own existence in this infinite evolving field. But at the same time, as far out as it goes as deep in, there's no end. So it's like we bring our consciousness to a place of balance between the known and unknown worlds, everything that we think we know from human perception, and then everything that already does know because it comes from divine intervention. We
Yeah.
get in that. And
Yeah.
now, I mean, it's happening. And you're right, it is. It's women are definitely tuning into it because it is, and it isn't just women, like anybody who's even men who are choosing to recognize that we have all energies in us,
Right.
when you feel that, you can feel that there's a feminine force
Yeah.
that we weren't ready for. The world wasn't ready for it until now.
Yeah.
Now it's just starting to get to a point where we can view reality as the observer. We can begin to perceive life that in a way that is so much greater than anybody or anything ever taught us. And when we allow ourselves to trust that, it is a very feminine nature, because in the beginning, it's like breaking through the trauma. We have to be able to cry. We have to feel whatever it is that we're afraid to feel. And that nurturing energy, that feminine energy, it wants us to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't say anything to that. It's hallelujah again. The organs,
Mhm.
just to start with that, like the organs, because I think everybody's kind of familiar with that. We start getting into some of the other stuff, and I might have to educate us.
We could
But
do
just to keep it in general, you mentioned that that there are geometries associated with each organ,
Yeah.
and this is a really interesting thing to kind of contemplate, that you bring up, and how that relates what seemingly physical to the non-physical, right?
Yeah.
Are there specific geometries associated with each organ? Does that make sense? Or like, you know how chakras have colors and
Yeah.
certain attributes, and are the organs associated with that? Are they associated with certain geometries, etc.?
There's many different phases, like, when people write out geometry and they try, like, it looks perfect on paper, right? It looks like this beautiful thing. But in a living sense, the lines aren't so perfect, right? Doesn't look like on a picture. It's a living biofield. It's an energetic field. You could say, okay, our whole body, whatever this life force causing the heart to beat, all that, essentially could be one big geometry with all the other organs putting different fields. They're all working together. They
Right.
might seem like they're different, and they are, to the degree, like, if somebody has extreme pain on a part of their body, they can begin to tune into feeling that body or that part of their body where the pain is. And you just breathe gently, you relax, you start to feel your heart, and you kind of get out of the way a little bit. You become the observer of all this. Relax the muscles in your face, and you just start to get so calm. And then the miracle of the body starts to work, and you're not in the way anymore. When you get out of the way, it knows exactly what you
Mhm.
are and what you want to do, and it prepares us to do that, you know. So yeah, there's different geometries, and they could be different places too. Like, a baby is going to have a very different, field than adults will, or somebody who's really sick could have different fields than somebody who's healthy,
Mm.
so there's a lot of different things. And not only that, it's like there aren't necessarily words that can articulate this,
Right.
but there, as we start becoming more hyper perceptive and aware of this consciousness, we recognize that all these different multidimensional fields are living, they're alive. It's infinity, it is energy. Like, and the more we're just at peace with everything, it just comes into view. Even though the words can't describe it, we can speak words that are charged by it.
Right.
So all of that is coming back now.
Yeah. Who we over the years again, and I know your consistency and also your diversity in terms of the different aspects that relate to what we call this transition ascension, be it physical, be it mental, be it modalities, sound, vibration, whatever. But the body, because I mean, again, people can go divide and conquer with vegan, eating meat, et cetera, et cetera. You need to do this or else, whether it's eating or some other lifestyle choice. But I think you're pretty well versed to speak on the body. And like I said it before, pretty much everyone I've run into is saying the last couple of years that the body's speaking louder and louder and louder. If the body tells you you're going to go lay down, and just go lay down, that's all you're going to know. And you wake up 3 hours later, and like, what the hell's going on here? And all these different things that people talk about on the show this year. But just to ask you point blank, it would make sense to me from a logical standpoint, not that that applies, but and it also feels this way, almost like man, I know it's coming, but let's hold it off a little bit, because we have these habits and that such. But the body, I feel like the body, especially the second half of this year, is basically getting to a point where saying, it's not going to take no for an answer. Like, it's coming on loud and loud. I mean, louder and louder. And if you think about embodiment, we are physically embodied, we're in this vessel, this hologram, whatever you want to call it. And all that stuff's coming into this body. Like, and people talk about that, like pushing this light into this small, this small space. I mean, but point being that we're possibly, I'm asking a question, but possibly seems like we're stepping into a space where the body is in command. And I think people can attest to this over the last few months too, is that many people have had physical afflictions and ailments and conditions pop up, and some leave very rapidly. And we know it's associated with releasing trauma or whatever the case is. But I guess what I'm saying is, do you feel like that the body as the temple is going to be taken to a point where it's you're either doing it or you're not? You know what I mean? Like, and if you're not, you kind of won't be keeping up with the energies, if you want to put it that way.
I think just from a very practical perspective, we know we have this, it's here. We know for sure we can work with it. It's something that's available to us. Then getting coherent, your calm, deep, gentle breaths, your heart and your brain and your gut are all sending signals and information to each other without you in the way. It primes the body to be able to have much greater capacity of energetics, like how you process that, how you become aware of it, because it's beautiful to describe this. And we use the language and our body language, like you said before, to, I don't want to say invoke, because it's not invoking anything. It's just there. It's what's always been there. But we're choosing to interface consciously to the body and the soul that we all will be no matter what. We can hide, we can, act like it isn't happening. But the universe is a perfect accounting system. That's what it's been in my experience. So it's like, yeah, you can run, you can hide, but eventually you're going to run out of places to hide, and you're going to run out of energy to keep running. So what then? Kind of don't really have much of an option than to just calm down, get into coherence, and get to know these bodies from the inside out.
Right.
Energetically. Like, yeah, obviously want to take care of it, good food, all that goes without saying. However, when this energetic piece starts to harmonize in our perception of self and world, the world that we thought we knew, it starts showing different pictures back, right? Like you're stuck in this place and you're like, oh, I'm suffering because of him. And he's like, we
Uh-huh.
get in this victim consciousness and like the other, right? Us and them. But when we choose to take responsibility for how we perceive the world and we get into a state of calm, the world starts to look very different. And when we get into a space where we are just fully at peace with our body, we remember everything. I
Yeah.
mean, everything. So, I don't know the other modalities or, but to
Well,
me,
yeah.
it's that simple. Now, is it easy? Depends, there's so many different beings that have incarnated during these times. But all the people I know, it hasn't been easy for anyone.
Right.
But because of that, we recognize like, wow, not only do we have the ability to get in tune with these temples and live from that place, but it's also our job, you could say, to make sure to support each other. Because even though many of us are having these experiences regularly, all the time, even, the world is gearing up for a bunch of others who are in the process or are going to be in the process. Everything is going to this place of infinite universal consciousness because we can only live out of tune with it for
Yeah.
so long before it needs to reset its balance.
Yeah. Yeah. That was very well said. Two things. One, just again, your emphasis and focus and intent on the connection and communion with the body. So I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm like, man, I just, even though I know this is not me, but all the time I thought it, that I wasn't really, at the level I'm at now, or the awareness I'm at now, whatever you want to call it. I was looking at my body as everything on the outside. So here we go again, and this is why I love having these conversations. The other thing I think that you bring up that I'm going to talk about from here forward uh, is there are people like us and that are listening to this and things like this. And again, we have taken on a role and all had very similar guidance, many of us around the world that are directing us together, and we have a certain, not expectation, but a certain something that we're following that's coming from within us. And so again, I think it's incumbent upon us to check ourselves, because we're the ones that said, "Well, we're spiritual, and so on and so on." But and then there's also been talk about a time would come when we would be put to work. Some people have talked about that in the sense that things are going to get more distorted and we will be illuminated enough and balanced enough and unaffected enough that that in itself will draw people to us, and like tuning forks, that will occur. But what I wanted to emphasize with what you're saying that needs to be said, and thank you for saying it, is that not to put anything in the field, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more distortion that really is a reflection of the releasing and facing the bullshit within ourselves and so on. It's a reflection of that. And that as a result of that, to your point, that's a necessary, or maybe that's a necessary, possibly it's necessary because I don't want to put it in the field, uh, occurrence. So, because that will shock people. And like many people, theoretically, and I believe it, we will hold our space. But there are a bunch of other people that's going to be their catalyst. That's going to be their wake up. And although we're not in the confines of linear time, and so they may not have to go through the process in terms of days and weeks and years like we did, the fact is still the fact. We all know what it's like, and we've probably experienced it a number of times, even since the first of the year on a personal level, where you have another, oh, it doesn't stop there. You got to keep going. Oh, there's a deeper level of integrity,
Yeah.
or there's a deeper level of faith, or whatever the case is. So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, that I really feel like what you said is important. That we'll be able to observe the fuckery and go, that's ridiculous. But also have the empathy to be able to see and feel what brothers and sisters that are catalyzed by that, and therefore go into the whole process of what we know is not a comfortable awakening, and for us
Yeah.
to be ready. That resonates with me. I feel like that's something that's upon us. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here. And yeah, come to the meditations if you want.
When are your meditations? Are they at a set time every week?
Yep, they're every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're not doing this Tuesday, but next week it'll just keep going every week.
It's Tuesday EST, 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Yeah.
Right on. And
Yeah.
do you have any plans or anything you're getting into? I mean, you mentioned creativity. I know you're a creative guy.
It's so funny because I just let everything be what it is, and somehow this plan just works, just like fills it
Mhm.
in.
I know
So yeah, I
exactly.
definitely foresee a lot of amazing stuff happening,
Yeah, as it comes, right? Because I totally relate to what you just made. That
Yeah.
point you just made. I'm in the past, it'd be, I don't know, 20, 30 shows in advance. And I don't think I've had more than probably no more than I think I got up to like 8 or 9 at one time, but most of the time it's like 4 or 5 in front of me. And it's all done instinctively in the flow. Oh, there's Seth, boom. And then you put it out there, but yeah, that seems to be something that's occurring too, where we're kind of disengaged from the past, so to speak, or at least enough to have that internal 100th monkey, as far as trauma anchoring us or limiting us. But now even the emphasis coming off of the future, because there's a program there too, which
Yeah.
has been the underlying death program is, oh yeah, be good and you'll go to heaven. But yeah, I feel like that, and I know it sounds cliche, but I really feel like that through these very human efforts, we are already doing it. We're creating heaven on earth. I don't care what it looks like out there, because there's too many people that are articulating their experience now, which is difficult enough, because I would bet you in March and April and probably even into May, the downloads were coming in so fast and so huge, multifaceted,
Yeah.
that you didn't have time to figure out what the hell you were downloading. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like that it's starting to kind of like come to a rolling boil, as it starts to build, as we start to build into whatever the hell this is going to be. But I know it's going to be magnificent. But yeah, I'm going to put that on my calendar, and I'll put it out on the network. I'd love to sit down with you again in a few weeks and see what's happening. 22.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to do it. It's
Yeah,
great.
man. I got to
I
say too,
enjoy
man, your
you.
energy.
I see how much you work and how consistent you are. Like that. Thank you. Thank you. We need that, like as a species, even those who've been born and they just know that their soul animating a human form. Like I said, we need each other.
Yeah.
Like if I may say this, it seems like the quote unquote spiritual leaders, you could say, right,
Yeah.
of our modern generation, there's still this projection of, like, I don't know, you call it a spiritual pissing contest, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
look at how developed I am. Look at how
Look how
conscious
big
I
my
am.
dick is.
Yeah, look at my, and
I'll say it if you
so,
want.
no, but it's true, right? Like,
No.
look,
Yeah.
what you're doing is, it's like, we got to get over all of that. I mean, we don't have to, but
Yeah.
if we do get over it and we come together, we all work together and help create something that can help countless individuals. I feel
Yeah.
like I love that. I would love to take that
Yeah.
job
Well,
on.
I mean, one thing I like about and there's good things in the Bible, there's good things in all sacred texts, but I've always liked that thing about the born again, not in
Yeah.
the connotation that it's used in Western religion, but in the fact that it's because, like, I'm looking at you, even from when we started, before you even started talking, you look different. Like, I can tell, and that's one thing I think that we all do have in common is you can look at somebody and they've done the work. That, you know what I mean? That, like, that, because you can see it in in their illumination. But yeah, to your point, my friend Ty Hudnall, he's an esoteric astrologer, among other things. He's very multifaceted like you. But I spent the last 6 months of the year in Sedona, and then before I headed over here in late December, he was telling me, we were talking about 2023, and he says this is the year that and he didn't mean this in a bad way. He meant it in terms of what you're talking about. This is the year, he calls it the year that the guru falls. And what he's saying is that, again, that the truth frequency and the truth, the sensitivity to the truth frequency, not that anybody was wrong, but as time goes on, there's a higher truth that those things will not be supported, and they'll just either evolve and transform, or they'll go away. But yeah, I believe that what you're saying is true. I don't know that a lot of people like to talk about it, and I don't know that a lot of people can talk about it without getting charged. But I think
That's why we're gonna make them laugh. It needs to come from a light-hearted, humoristic place, because that also is the best defense. But keep going. I don't want to.
No. All I was going to say is that so all the more reason to recognize and acknowledge the physical incarnations in terms of the energetics that they represent. And this goes back to, why are there 85% feminine in these groups? And why is there 85% of the videos and lives men? Right. So I see this shifting. You could call it like a pole shift kind of sequence.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that men won't be out there. That's not what it means. I think everybody is far enough along now. We can talk about this, because we're all affected by the energetic genders and our lack of balance or balance of it within ourselves. But I think instead of it being like a like a stoning, or like, hey, we knew you were fucking asshole the whole time, but no, they weren't. There was intent there. I mean, these things don't serve us like they used to. This happens. This is life. This is expansion. But the bottom line is, I believe this soft underrising, from the belly of the mother is materializing, and I think that's kind of what we're going to see. Is we're going to start to see more of that stepping forward, and the very force of that in the physicality will shine light on the distortions in all of us, be they masculine or feminine. It's just time. It's time. It's time for that energy that was put down for so long in all of us, every one of us. It's coming out. So
it's kind of like you said before, like it's gonna happen no matter what. So we have two choices, right? Make peace with it,
right,
or let it take a piece of us.
That's a great meme right there. Put that on Twitter. But that's what I saw in you, and I'm seeing in more and more people. It actually started in I want to say late October, early November of last year. I started people started showing up. People that I knew like you, and they were showing up on the show, and there was something different about them. I could see it in their face. And then when we made the jump, it really started to come out. And that simply, if I had to describe like what I've experienced with you today, is your peace, the peace that you have with yourself, the peace that you have with me and others, and the peace that you have with all the players, events, institutions, narratives. You have a peace. And as a result of that peace, you're not, I was going to say focused, but you're becoming hypersensitive and hyper focused in a good way with your own internal universe. And I believe that's how we kind of share things, is through the exemplary part of our lives, as the words become less needed. So, man, thank you, brother. And I look forward to collaborating with you more this year. And
I would love to.
Everybody, he's on Facebook. You're
Oh no, I'm on Facebook, but
you're not on Facebook.
No, I am. I'm on.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. You're on Facebook, and you're on YouTube, and our YouTube channel's your name as well, right?
It's called Cosmic Gaia Community Channel. Also, too, we have my friends building a whole social site that isn't, it won't be censored or anything, but freedomsnap.org/Seth it'll bring people right to the place where you can set up your calendar and get
Right on.
reminded for the meditations. And
Right on.
then,
Man,
yeah,
we
we're
may,
not going to do it this Tuesday, but after
right.
that, they're just going to keep coming. We've done about 10 so far, and they're good too. Like, they're not time sensitive, like different systems that can be worked on at any time.
Sounds
But yeah,
very,
we're going to
very,
cover mostly all the body stuff first before we get on to other stuff.
well, it sounds very, very interesting. I hadn't heard of anything like this before, and there are a lot of new kind of creations and initiatives happening. And I'm glad to hear that you and your friend are involved with this, kind of these independent social
Yeah.
alternatives. That's what we're doing here. I mean, right now we're just putting the content out, but we've got a second initiative, which is like kind of like a YouTube, Facebook, Etsy, LinkedIn, all in one,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. But
Mm.
I see that coming out later in the year. We're having a Sology Fest, December 8th, 9th, and 10th, Houston, Texas. I feel like that's going to kind of converge with that. And yeah, be looking for information on that in these next few days. And yeah, man, until I see you the next time, brother, I love you and I appreciate you. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and your heart.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate you so much.
All right, brother. I'll see you
See you
later.
soon.
Bye-bye.